What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. My name is Shelby. Today is March 16th. I wanted to do a fun video for you guys. I wanted to share with you guys my favorite books of all time that I have read ever since I've started reading, and just my favorite books I've read, 5-star reads and 4-star reads that I have just fell in love with the characters and everything, and I wanted to go ahead and give my opinions and just share my thoughts with you guys. Let's go ahead and get this video started. Okay, I have quite a few books that I have read in the past couple years that I have just fell in love with, that I will never stop talking about, and that I highly recommend to a lot of people, especially if they want to get into reading. I have certain books that I do recommend to get people started into reading that is an easy read. And then if they also want to get into fantasy, I have a few books as well that I love recommending, that are my favorite, that are my go-to, and that I highly recommend for people to start reading if they want to get into the fantasy world, which is so much fun to share with everybody and just hear their thoughts, especially after they have found their favorite fantasy book, and just go and discover more fantasy books and get into a whole new world. But as you can see here, I have lots of books right here that I'm so excited to be sharing with you guys. But yeah, let's go ahead and just start diving in of my favorite books that I have picked out that I'm ready to share with you guys. Okay, the first book is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is my favorite Emily Henry book of all time. I will never stop talking about this book. I think I gave this a 4.5 stars or 5-star rating, but I love this book. It's such a good summer, easy read. It's about a group of friends that go and take a trip every summer together, and this year in this book, they're all trying to find their place in their friend group, and then there is a couple, which is Harriet and Wynne. They are not in a relationship at the moment, but they are faking their relationship so everybody else thinks that they're happy and that nothing has changed. It's just so good, and I love listening and reading the development of how all these friends became, especially Harriet and Wynne, and then where their story is at with each other now, and just doing this fake dating to show that they're friends, that they're still in this happy relationship. It's just such a cute book, and I love where the story takes place. I love the development with each of the friendship and relationship, especially with Harriet and Wynne. It's just so good. I will never stop talking about this book. I would probably reread this for the summer. It's just so good, and I highly recommend this book by Emily Henry, along with her new book that's coming out in April, which I'm so excited. I think it's gonna be amazing. But all of Emily Henry's books are so good, but this one is definitely my favorite of hers. But yeah, so this is Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I'm just obsessed with it. The next book is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I love this book. I thought this book was so cute. It's definitely one of my favorite Christina Lauren books of all time. I think I gave this book a 4-star rating, and it's about a girl named Macy, where she's got a routine and that she likes to stick with it, and she works hard at her new pediatrics resident, and she runs into Elliot, the first and only love of her life, and once upon a time, those two were each other's entire world. Bookish friends into the man who coaxed her heart, opened again only to break it on the very night he declared his love for her. So it kind of just takes place past and present for these two, and I love their relationship growth that just happens with each other, and you get to understand their past a little bit better with each other, and then where they are with the present, and it's so good. I love this book. It's a great, especially February read, but it's a cute romance, cozy book. It's just really good, and it's fun to just go back from a past into the present with each other and the characters in this book. And I just love character development and just learning more about them. That's why I love going back to the past and just learning more about each character and why they did what they did. And yeah, I recommend this book. It is so good. Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren is just so good. The next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This was definitely my favorite thriller book of all time. Mystery thriller book of all time. It is a trilogy. It is so good. I think I rated this maybe 4-star, but it is by Holly Jackson. Yes, it is by Holly Jackson, but this book is so good. I could not stop reading it. I could not stop talking about it. This was definitely one of my very first books I have ever read. It's about a girl named Pip, and she starts this podcast and starts studying all the murders that have been happening in her town. Well, one murder, and it was about the popular girl that disappeared and her murder. And everybody thinks it was her boyfriend that did it, but so yeah, Pip goes into this whole rabbit hole of trying to figure out who the actual murderer is, and basically discovers dark secrets that proves that Sale, which was the popular girl's boyfriend, innocent. And so yeah, she just goes down this rabbit hole to try to help Sale out, and it is so good and it will keep you on your toes. I recommend this series in a heartbeat. The first book is my favorite book out of the whole series, but the rest of them are good as well, but this just kept me on my toes and I loved it. And yeah, so that's all I have to say about that one. Next one is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This one is my favorite Colleen Hoover book of all time. This was definitely one of my very first books I have read. I probably rated this, I think, maybe a 5-star. I loved it. I read this book in a day. Like, that's how much I love Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. It is so good, and it's about a girl named Tay, and she meets the tormented and secretive Miles Archer. They wouldn't even go so far as to consider themselves friends. The only thing Tay and Miles have in common is mutual physical attraction that can't be denied. Once their desires are out in the open, they realize they might have stumbled on the perfect no-strings arrangement. He isn't looking for love. She doesn't have time for it, so that leaves just sex. What they got could be surprisingly satisfying as long as Tate can stick to the 2 rules Miles has for her. Never ask about the past. Don't expect the future. They think they can handle it, but everything is different when real emotions start to change the equation. This book is just so good. I loved it. I loved the relationship between Miles and Tate, and oh my gosh, Miles was definitely my favorite book boyfriend for a good while, until I started reading more books, but I love this book. I could not recommend this enough. I think it's a great first read to get into Colleen Hoover, especially just in general. If you want to start reading, her books are the way to go. I know they're very popular. I know she's very popular, but it is a great way to get into reading, and especially this book is the best way to start your reading journey. So I will keep recommending this book to people. It is just so good. It is my favorite one of all time, and I will never stop talking about Ugly Love. The next one is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is my favorite Ali Hazelwood book of all time. She is a STEM author, and I think I rated this maybe a 4-star, but I did love this book a lot. It's about Olive Smith, who is her 3rd-year PhD candidate. Doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does, and that's what got her into this situation. Olive is dating, and well, on her happily ever after was always going to take more than hand-wavy Jedi mind tricks. Scientists required proof. So like any self-respecting biologist, Olive panics and kisses the first man she sees. Well, that man turned out to be Adam Carlson, who is a young, hot professor and well-known ass, which is why Olive is positively floored when Stanford's reigning lab Triant agrees to keep her charades a secret and be her fake boyfriend. And when a big science conference goes haywire, putting Olive's career on the Bunsen burner, Adam surprises her again with his unyielding support and even more unyielding 6-pack abs. Suddenly, their little experiment feels dangerously close to combustion, and Olive discovers that the only thing more complicated than a hypothesis on love is putting her own heart under the microscope. The other reason why I love this book was because my fiance is a biochemist undergrad, and he is now in grad school for polymer science. But I felt like this was just kind of a fun book to understand what it's like to work in grad school and kind of understand where he was coming from. But I just thought this was a very fun book because, you know, you're dealing with biology and just the whole science side of it, and a very fun relationship, which obviously involves fake dating. It's just so good. I will keep recommending this book to people. It is just one of my favorites of Ali Hazelwood. I would definitely reread this book again. That's just how good it is, and the cover is just so cute too. So very good book, and I will never stop talking about it. And now we're getting into my favorite parts of this video, and it's gonna be my fantasy book recommendations that I never will shut up about. First of all, the whole thing that got me started in fantasy was Crave by Tracy Wolff. Oh my gosh, this was such a good book. The series is even good too. I have 2 of them right here, but oh my gosh, this series is so good. Especially the first book, I loved it. It is about vampires, werewolves, witches. It's this human girl that goes and stays with her uncle and her cousin at this academy, and she meets a mysterious boy, and then it turns out he's a vampire, but she doesn't know it, and everybody has little secrets, and she doesn't know about it, and it just takes you on this amazing fun journey with romance to fantasy to adventure to trying to be a hero. It's just so good. I almost like this better than Twilight, honestly. I have not read the Twilight books, I've only seen it, but I think this is better because it's more for our age. They're in high school. I don't know, it's so good. This is where I started falling in love with fantasy reading. Tracy Wolff unlocked a whole new world for me, and this was just a good book, and I highly recommend reading it, and it's a great way to get into fantasy if you are nervous about getting into fantasy. So yeah, Crave by Tracy Wolff. It is such a good book, and I just highly recommend reading it. It is just amazing, and I love, in the first book, I love Jackson Vega. Oh my gosh, this is just where you'll fall in love with vampires and werewolves and witches. Yeah, so highly recommend Crave by Tracy Wolff. And then the next book we have is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Oh my gosh, I just read this book recently because it's on my March TBR. I think I gave this a 5-star rating. This book is so good. Oh my gosh, when people talk about this book, I know what they're talking about now. But this is definitely like Criminal Minds. If you like Criminal Minds, this is like Criminal Minds. Oh my gosh, it is so good. Mystery, thriller, action a little bit, romance kind of tied into it a little bit. But it's about a 17-year-old girl that joins the FBI in a program called The Naturals. She has a special kind of power. She's a profiler, and so they bring her in to help solve cold cases, and she meets 4 other people too that are in the program, and each one has their own special ability. One can read emotions, one can tell lies, the other is smart and just can state facts, and the other one is a profiler as well. But yes, this book is just so good. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I think I read this book in 3 days because I was just so intrigued by it, and it's so good. Jennifer knows how to write her books. Her writing is so good. Oh my gosh, I loved it. And like, it's definitely Criminal Minds vibe, and that's why I think I loved it more, because I do love watching Criminal Minds. So yeah, I definitely recommend this book. It is so good, and I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. Even though I only have the 2nd and 3rd one, I still need to buy the 4th one. But yeah, I definitely recommend reading this and the rest of the series as well. Okay, we are down to the last 2. And these are my favorite books that I have read this year and last year of all time. I don't ever shut up talking about these books because they're always on my mind 24/7. So the first book that I want to talk about is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. To technically the series is my favorite books, one of my favorite books of all time. The whole series of her, they're right here. I just did not feel like getting all down, so I thought I was just gonna do the first one. But yeah, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. I think I rated this one a 4-star rating. This book is really good. It is hard to get into at first, but once you get into the second book, which is, I think the second is going to be my favorite of all time. So yeah, the second one, but I wanted to just talk about the series. Yeah, so it's about a girl named Farah. She is basically trying to take care of her family, and she kills this wolf at the beginning of the book. And it turns out he's a fairy, and the fairylands find out that Farah killed this wolf, and she has to go into the fairy world and basically make a deal with Tamlin that you meet in this book, and she has to stay with him. And then a whole bunch of stuff starts going downhill as she lives in the fairy world, and it's just so good. A lot of action, a lot of romance, and it's just amazing. I have never been introduced to anything like this before, and I became obsessed with it. It's so good. You start to fall in love with every character in here, and then once you keep reading the series, you love the characters more. You feel a connection with the characters, and you just don't want the series to end. And yeah, I love this series. This was a good book, but the rest of the books are a lot better than the first one. You just kind of have to get through the first one to get to the rest of the books, and then it's just so worth it after that. But a lot does happen at the end of the first one, so that's what makes it worth it, because then, yeah. Anyways, it's just so good. Sarah J Maas, her writing is amazing, phenomenal. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. To the readers out there, she knows how to get that connection with the characters to the readers. She knows what she's doing a lot of twists and turns in each of her book. But yeah, I highly recommend the series. It's amazing. And the last but not least is Fourth Wing. Are we surprised? No, we're not. Fourth Wing, I rated this a 5-star. Oh my gosh, I loved Fourth Wing. I thought the Crave series was my favorite, and then I got introduced to Fourth Wing. And I will never shut up about this book. I loved it. And then I read Iron Flame, which is the second one. That one was really good, but Fourth Wing, oh my gosh, favorite book of all time. It is about a girl named Violet. They live in this place, and her mom is a general for writers, and she was always grown up to be a scribe, which is where they learn information. There are 4 quadrants. You have writer, scribe, and then what else? This is embarrassing that I don't remember. But there's 4 quadrants. But she was being taught how to be a scribe, just like her father. But her mother wants her to become a writer, just like her siblings. So Violet is now signed up to become a dragon writer, and she's sent off to Basgiath, which is a war college, and you are basically learning how to survive and become a dragon rider. So she is getting in all sorts of trouble, and she runs to Xaden, which is kind of her enemy, and she's trying to watch out for herself while everybody wants to get rid of her because she is the general's daughter. And yeah, it's really good, and I loved the details in this book, the romance. I just loved everything about it, and the fact that you are basically surviving a war college, a dragon war college, to become a dragon rider. Kind of reminds me of the Hunger Games a little bit in that aspect, but this book is just so good. I cannot recommend this enough. I will never shut up about this book. It's amazing, and I will probably keep rereading this. That's how much I love this book, but I have already read this twice, so yeah. But yeah, please read this, especially if you want to get into fantasy. This is another great start compared to reading the ACOTAR series, but this is a great way. It's not complicated fantasy. It's a great, easy fantasy read, definitely to get, if you want to get started into fantasy. But yeah, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, so good. I will never shut up about it. So yeah. But yeah, that is all my book recommendations for you guys. These are my favorite books of all time that I will never stop talking about and recommending to people, because I just love these books and I love the characters and the author and their writing. They are just so good at what they do, and I'm so glad I am into reading and I love reading, and I will never stop reading and talking about all the books that I have just fell in love with. But I cannot wait to keep reading all my other books as well and see if I do gain any more favorites and even 5-star reads. So yeah. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video. And as Harry Styles says, treat people with kindness, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.